Hello YouTube and welcome back to World of Warships with Wadres, and today I have a operations video for you. And this is going to be running the Ark Royal in Operation Aegis. And to start off, the simple fact that we came off of this match with 4 stars, let alone a win, was amazing. But anyway, just to give you the brief overview, 621,000 credits earned, 14,861 EXP, 10,059 free EXP, 160,000 damage done. Also got the Will to Win award. So as an aircraft carrier, I ended up as the last player alive on my team for this match, if that says anything about how interesting this is going to be overall. Let's see. 1,314 base EXP. The Pensacola on our team was the only person who did better, and granted we were kind of put into a situation where he had to play cautious, but I'm still kind of wary of how he ended up having to ended up with that score. But it, I mean, it's understandable again, just considering the way things went earlier on in this mission. Let's see, overall, 64,000 damage done to an enemy Fuso, 24,000 damage done to the Alba, 3,200 to Akuma, and those are the ships that I killed. 27,000 damage done to an Ishizuchi, 18,000 to Akuma, 13,000 to another couple of ships, and 1,500 to a Furutaka. As far as damage done, 166,372, with 152,000 of that being from aircraft, 148,800 being from torpedoes, if that says anything about where I decided to focus my damage output. And honestly, I'm glad I did, because on a previous attempt I had tried going with the dive bombers, and just really kind of got very lackluster results. So I decided to opt more for my torpedoes here. Floods, also 13,800 damage, and that was from 6 floods spread across, I think, 3 or 4 different ships, 2 of them on the Fuso, and the Fuso is the one that actually got me the vast majority of that, with something like 11,000 damage from the floods. So, yeah. And one of the other things you'll notice is I do have 62,000 damage from spotting, but as far as the potential damage numbers, 210,000 damage, so I actually absorbed some direct damage in an aircraft carrier, if that says anything about just how tight this match was getting towards the very end. And the ship also directly absorbed almost 30,000 points worth of damage overall, which, again, that's telling as to just how close this match was getting, especially knowing that I was the last person alive on my team. Net results, 89,000 credits earned, and yeah, I was running this with a crap ton of modifiers because I can. Commander also earned 33,256 EXP, and given that this is the commander that came with my Ark Royal, I'm just wanting to get as much EXP into him as I possibly can. Again, just whole crap ton of modifiers there, and again, this is where I tend to get a lot of my heavy income and experience earnings for ships on occasion, so take that how you will. But anyway, let's get into the match now so you can actually see what I'm talking about here. As things go, I'm sure you'll understand why I opted to show you the results screen before I actually showed you the match. And to start off, just looking at the lineup, honestly, there are some things that I'd really prefer not to see on a regular basis. For example, the Pensacola, it's a capable ship, don't get me wrong, but it's not something I would routinely look at seeing in a lineup. Same goes for the the Dallas on the team. New Mexico is debatable. The DeGrasse, not something I routinely see, and honestly am frequently underwhelmed by. So, yeah. On top of that, we've got, at the start of this match, we have our ultimate score winner, meaning first of the team player, asking where we're starting off. So I don't know what else this says about the remainder of the team, but this tells me that he's probably not accustomed to doing any of the operations. So, yeah. Anyway, my first order of business is trying to go out and highlight the enemy ships for other players to start focusing damage on, especially as they get in range and just get a line of sight. And, well, yeah, I just kind of end up sitting back a little bit to just kind of rake in the spotting damage more so than anything else, especially on the destroyers that are sitting over here, because, well, there's not really a whole lot else I can do early on. And, well, a couple of these cruisers really just start working through my aircraft very quickly. Rather than attacking, however, I do, again, still just opt to keep my distance and just keep targets lit up so that friendlies can shoot at them. But at this point, I'm already looking at what's left on the enemy team, and usually we've sunk at least 2 of the ships by now by some of the runs that I've had previously. So things aren't going well already, as far as I'm concerned. Usually the Ishizuchi's taken a good chunk of damage, and at least 1, if not 2, of the cruisers are down, and a destroyer is well on its way to being sunk. However, we've only sunk a Shiratsuyu and a Furutaka, also seriously damaged an Aoba. And it's just not looking any better. And, well, not to put too fine a point on it, very shortly here, we're going to also be losing our destroyer to the Shiratsuyu that just dropped torpedoes. At least I think we're going to be losing our destroyer. We're going to be losing something to that Shiratsuyu. I do know that much. And it just... We lose ships early, and it starts having long-reaching effects for the overall course of the match. To not put too fine a point on it. And I do take it back, looking forward a little bit. It is in fact our de Grasse who goes down first, but yeah, it's still just... Losing a cruiser or even a destroyer early in the match is a real major blow to take. I mean, hell, granted, losing anything early on is a major blow to take, but the simple fact remains, it just gets harder and harder the more ships that you lose, and if you lose them early, it just makes continuing the match that much more painful. It was also about this point that I kind of started realizing that I'm gonna have to take a far more active role in this match than I have previously. Because we need to start knocking shit out. And, I mean, we've still got the Ishizuchi, and we've got players who are rounding the island, and the detachment from the north has started to come in. Usually, by this point in the match, we've had the initial detachment destroyed, and been working our way through at least half of the deployment to the western side of the map before the convoy even shows up. So we're really running behind here. So yeah, I'm kind of realizing that I'm going to have to take a much more active role, and it's at this point that I say, you know what, I'm spamming my torpedo bombers, that's all I'm running, and I'm just going to have to hope that I don't lose them too quickly, because that's the other thing to note about this mission, is that the cruisers, they may be lighter, they may be lower tier in most cases, but they are still cruisers, and they are still a substantial threat to the aircraft from an aircraft carrier, especially one like the Ark Royal, which has particularly low-health aircraft to begin with. Throw in the fact that these aircraft are slow and do tend to stay in the AA bubbles for quite a substantial amount of time, And it just becomes even more understandable as to why I would be worried about losing aircraft as things progress. It's just much more difficult to keep the Ark Royal going if you lose too many aircraft too quickly. Even though she does actually have a reasonable replacement time frame as well, it's just the simple fact that losing aircraft does hurt. Oh, and there went our Farragut. So we're 6 minutes into the match. We haven't even managed to finish getting the second detachment of ships sunk, and we've already lost 2 ships, and one of them being our destroyer. This is a major contributor to a lot of things that would be going on later on in the match, among other things. So we've already lost a pretty substantial amount of our damage output, and it's going to get much worse before it gets even remotely better. Our Pensacola has taken up a somewhat covered flanking position. Our Prince Idle Friedrich, who I think loaded in late, is trying to keep himself out of harm's way as much as he can, so this also means that the only ships that are visible are New Mexico and I think our Dallas are basically sitting out in the open and just absorbing damage from all angles. And it's definitely going to start hurting even more. I mean, yeah, okay, our Pensacola's doing very well for himself. He's at least doing something, which is more than can be said for a couple of our other teammates. But again, there's still the simple fact that it's just not looking good. In fact, our New Mexico is basically getting pummeled from all sides. Ishizuchi is giving him some attention. All of the cruisers only have him to shoot at because, well, our Prince Idle Friedrich is sitting way off to the side. He's staying basically where he's useless. Our Pensacola is at least trying to do something, but even so, I mean, you can even see in chat, basically at this point, that I'm not having any good feelings from this team at all, just because, well, hey, there went our New Mexico. Things just weren't really looking good. I was, at this point, fully expecting to lose this match. So, at this point, I was basically just in damage farming mode, seeing how much damage I could do in as short a time as possible to try to salvage anything at all. So, yeah, take that how you will. Relative to prior matches I'd had, I would have been just kind of trying to spread my damage out across as many ships as possible to make them easier for my team to take down. But in this case, I'm actually looking at having to do everything I can to actually sink enemy ships because there went our Dallas. I am now the one of 3 ships left on my team, and we still have more than half of this mission left. And I'm even being shot at by Akuma. We're usually not this bad off. So yeah, our team really sucked on this early game. So the remaining players on this team, up to and including myself, really have to perform admirably in order to keep this up at all. Yeah, it's painful at this point because I'm literally having to do as much damage control as I possibly can to try and keep things moving here. I mean, hell, the convoys made it almost halfway across the map, too, from the starting position. Granted, that's actually something that ends up helping in the long run, thank God, but the simple fact remains, well, usually by this point, we've had the convoy destroyed, and they're already trying to get towards the exit point. And, well, yeah, it's... Again, at this point, I was still fully expecting to lose this match. I was not expecting to really get anywhere substantial. I was expecting the convoy to be destroyed, or everybody to end up dying, or whatever. So, yeah. No warm fuzzies about this match at all whatsoever at this point in time. On the plus side, with 9 minutes remaining on the clock, we have managed to finally secure the transports so that they can turn towards the exit point and start bringing in the final onslaught of enemy ships. Our Prince Idle Friedrich here, I will have to give him a substantial nod. He does phenomenally well handling the battleships at the that show up at A4 here. And that's a good thing, because I basically had to turn my attention over to the enemy Fuso if we wanted to have any chance at all of even getting any of the this final star actually knocked out. So, yeah, because me and myself are the only ones in any position at all to do anything about that Fuso. I mean, I can't even try to get aircraft in a position to spot anything for the Prince Idle Friedrich. And I'm going to be perfectly honest, our Pensacola, based on how he had himself positioned, he's going to be no help at all. He is no help to the team where he is. He's going to have to close a lot of distance with a Fuso that is perfectly capable of looking at his broadside. In fact, I'm sure you noticed in chat that I had actually warned our Prince Idle Friedrich about the Fuso, because I know he had a huge broadside that was facing that Fuso, and I did not want him getting destroyed either. And this is where the fun part comes in this match for me, because I've got to sink this Fuso in this mass of cruisers and destroyers that's going to be popping up, and the only thing that I have to do this with are slow, very swordfish torpedo bombers. You'll notice at this point, I'm not even bothering or considering my rocket planes or my attack bombers, because I just want to try to get as much damage as I can on this battleship as I possibly can, and the torpedo bombers are honestly my most reliable source of damage. So yes, I spam them like crazy and hope to all the powers that be that I get as many of these aircraft back from each successive strike as I possibly can. And this Fuso, if this were a player Fuso, it would literally hate me. It would hate me like crazy, because I am doing nothing but focusing on it. And the cruisers, I'm sure if they were players, would also just feel utterly useless, because the amount of actual AA damage output that they're doing, the input they're giving to this match, as far as keeping me off of their Fuso, is minimal. It's almost like they're doing nothing to my aircraft, which conversely is a major bonus, because it means I'm not losing as many aircraft as I could be, and therefore it also means that I'm actually remaining relatively effective in trying to just do something to this Fuso to try and get it knocked out. Unfortunately, as I had expected earlier, the Pensacola just got knocked out. He was at too long range. The Fuso was able to knock him out as soon as he got spotted. And, well, the only players left are me and the Prince Idle Friedrich. And Prince Idle Friedrich has somehow miraculously avoided damage from the two battleships that he was fighting. I'm reasonably sure he can at least thank armor angling for that, but he's been also showing a lot of broadside to the Fuso, and he's got the cruisers that are now bearing down on him. In fact, they are solely bearing down on him. They're not even giving it any attempt to move towards the convoy or even the exit point. And he's just going to end up getting focused down exceptionally quickly. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised to find out that he had fires get set that just kept burning and burning, and I wouldn't even be surprised at all to find out that he had popped his damage control on a single fire and just allowed himself to burn out through that regard either, just based on how this team had been performing overall up to this point. Now, granted, at least I can say that Prince Idol Friedrich does seem to know what he's doing, and that's about the only saving grace at this point in the match. But no amount of skill from a Tier 6 battleship player is going to save you from the sheer withering HE spam of, let's see, a battleship, 2 battleships, 3 cruisers, and a destroyer. I finally managed to sink the Fuso, but nowhere near in time to do anything to save the Prince Idol Friedrich, which also means that at this point I have to start charging the enemy formation if I want to at least draw some fire away from the transport ships to give them that little bit of time they need to get into the exit circle without being sunk. So yeah, I actually had to basically be a decoy for the convoy as the last ship on the team and hope that I didn't get just flat out erased. Fortunately, I will jump a little bit ahead in the commentary here and say that I do manage it, as evidenced by the results and the fact that we did win, but damn was this a tight match, and I can definitely say, hands down, it was due to failings of the team. Anyway, on that note, I suppose I shall go ahead and let everybody go. I hope you have enjoyed this real hard-won match, and I hope to catch you again later. Have a good one, folks.